In June 2026, the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service initiated a mandatory recall, pulling nearly 6,000 pounds of frozen meals from the upper Midwest. The intervention targeted 13.3-ounce vacuum-sealed trays of meatloaf with garlic mashed potatoes, a high-volume comfort food item produced in 5,795-pound quantities. The manufacturer Power Plate Meals, LLC, distributed these meals from their West Fargo, North Dakota facility, primarily into North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. Consumers were instructed to check for establishment code EST217CENT, located inside the circular USDA mark of inspection, to identify the affected units. While most recalls target a single batch, this investigation revealed an undetected error spanning nearly a full year, with production dates ranging from June 25, 2025 to June 10, 2026. Stamped use-by dates on these frozen trays extend as far as June 2027, meaning the product remains a latent presence in household freezers long after the production lines have stopped. The presence of undeclared soy drove this mandatory recall, identifying a failure in the labeling and compliance room despite a year of accurate physical production. This facility operates as a cooperative interstate shipping establishment, a specific regulatory framework for small and mid-sized producers. Under this model, state-trained inspectors conduct the daily oversight of the facility, enforcing the same rigorous safety standards required by the federal government. Regulatory records show that the meatloaf recipe itself was executed correctly. The kitchen met every required specification for the actual food preparation. The issue centered on soy, an industrial agricultural staple intentionally used in the recipe as a binder to give the meat blend its required texture. When the manufacturer finalized the packaging layout, the soy ingredient was omitted from the master label design, leaving the final consumer-facing deck incomplete. For 12 months, this labeling misprint went undetected by internal quality checks and corporate audits, while thousands of trays entered the regional supply chain. A state field inspector finally discovered the error during a routine compliance review, cross-referencing the facility's actual formulations against the physical labels on the production line. The inspector immediately notified the Food Safety and Inspection Service, triggering a rapid escalation to a formal federal recall. This sequence illustrates how state-level oversight acts as a critical failsafe, correcting administrative oversights that bypass internal corporate controls. Federal agencies treat undeclared allergens with the same severity as a bacterial outbreak because the physiological consequences for sensitive consumers are equally immediate. This is the logic behind the legal mandate for the Big 9 major allergens, which requires explicit transparency on all commercial packaging sold in the U.S. In a consumer with a severe allergy, the immune system mistakenly identifies trace soy proteins as an active threat, triggering an explosive release of histamines. Early symptoms appear as hives, skin rashes, or a distinct tingling sensation in the mouth within minutes of consumption. If the reaction advances, it can lead to acute abdominal pain, nausea, and a sudden dangerous drop in blood pressure. The critical peak is anaphylactic shock, a life-threatening emergency that constricts the airway and requires an immediate dose of epinephrine and emergency medical care. To date, there have been no confirmed reports of adverse reactions or medical emergencies linked to the June 2026 Power Plate recall. Despite the lack of current injuries, the frozen nature of the product means the hazard remains dormant in consumer homes, potentially for several more months. For sensitive populations, a missing allergen warning turns a standard convenience meal into a latent biological hazard. The public often views food safety through the lens of biological contamination, focusing on bacteria like Salmonella or E. coli. Industry data reveals a different reality. Nearly 38.8% of food safety recalls are driven by misbranding and undeclared allergens, outperforming biological pathogens. Cross-contact on multi-recipe production lines is a primary driver of these errors, where traces of one recipe migrate into another. Other errors originate with upstream suppliers who change a minor ingredient in a sauce or spice mix without alerting the primary manufacturer. Safety breaks down when the manufacturer's master packaging file fails to reflect these unannounced changes in the vendor's data. At industrial speeds, thousands of mislabeled units can be distributed across multiple states before a manual review identifies the data misalignment. Food safety has historically focused on the physical control of pathogens on the factory floor, but the modern complexity of ingredient tracking has introduced a new layer of risk. Based on the high volume of labeling-related interventions, managing compliance data has become as critical to consumer health as maintaining a sterile factory environment. In response to this specific type of labeling failure, the USDA utilizes Class 2 recall declarations. A Class 2 recall acts as a preventative defense, prioritizing the removal of affected products from the market before they ever reach sensitive consumers at the dinner table. If you have a package marked with EST 217SEND, the official directive is to avoid consuming the meal, even if no one in your household has a known soy allergy. You should either bag the product and dispose of it in an outdoor trash bin, or return it to the place of purchase for a full refund. Logistical questions can be directed to the manufacturer at hungrytohelp@powerplatemeals.com. For broader safety inquiries, the USDA maintains a toll-free meat and poultry hotline at 1-888-MP-HOTLINE. The Power Plate Meals recall demonstrates that in a modern, multi-state supply chain, safety depends as much on the integrity of the data as it does on the sanitation of the facility.